range. 3-point range. Shoot your shot. Get that hot. Jump so high. Touch the sky. With the best. All that goes sweat. 3-point range.
Welcome back to 3-Point Range, everybody. We're happy to have you, and we are going to jump right into it this week because our goal is to just create this wonderful tight package that you all can enjoy in a bite-sized morsel. So I'm going to throw it right to Kimball to get us rolling on point one.
All right, guys. What time of year is it now? What's going on in sports? What's the biggest thing going on in sports?
Always college basketball. Always.
Shelby. Shelby. Bail us out.
I would say for, most sports fans, it would be NFL postseason.
Yeah.
The NFL postseason's going on?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's
Super
very,
Bowl's in
very
2
important.
Right now?
It will shape the future of franchises for years to come. But I would say that what's also going on at that same time in the NFL is it's coach hiring time. And talk about something that affects the franchise for years to come. It's this. And the funny part about it is I think it's just a shot in the dark. I think teams are just like taking giant stabs and it will affect their future for years, and they're going off so little information. And of course, there's no better example than my beloved New York Jets, who once again have reached down and hired they thought was a genius assistant and another genius defensive assistant, hoping that this will turn their tides and end the longest playoff drought by far in the NFL in hiring Aaron Glenn. And I just want to ask you guys, do you feel a lot of confidence when you have a team? It might not be an NFL team, but I think the example, it's got to be a guy that hasn't coached a head coach before, but is an assistant that maybe appears to be good because his track record seems good as an assistant, but then he's elevated to a head coach. Do you have examples from your past where you thought oh, this is going to work or not work, or with different coaches? So I ask you that, and then I'll get back to my point. So do you have anything like that, Shelby or Tim? I know Tim doesn't really have favorite teams, so it's almost impossible.
No, I really don't, and I mean I'm going just purely on thinking about who's in and around now and who's successful, and everybody who listens to the podcast knows that I don't have great allegiance to the NFL just in general, but when you brought this up as your point today, I started to think about, okay, well, who are the successful coaches in the NFL? And I thought you might be making this point about how promoting from assistants who you're not really sure whether they can make good head coaches, and obviously that is scar tissue from your connection to the Jets. I mean, the Robert Salehs of the world, the Adam Gazes of the world. You just think
Todd Bowles
of the world. Yeah, I mean you are scarred, and rightly so. But I also, just to play the devil's advocate here, I think about the coaches that are successful currently in the NFL, and I think about where did they come from, and I think about let's talk about the two coaches in the Super Bowl right now. Nick Sirianni has certainly taken his share of flack over the years, and correctly so in some cases. But Nick Sirianni came from the ranks of the assistant coaches. When he took over for the Eagles, nobody knew who the heck he was, and now he's in the Super Bowl. Andy Reid, okay, different case, obviously, but if you look back at Andy Reid's history, before he coached the Chiefs, he obviously coached the Eagles. And before he coached the Eagles, he was just another assistant coach banging around in the NFL, and suddenly turned up with the Eagles, did a pretty good job there, and then did a pretty good job with the Chiefs, as we can, let's just confirm once and for all, the Chiefs, the Harlem Globetrotters, the Nick Sabans, yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk too much about that, but I just wanted to mention it, and then maybe the easiest case of all to say, oh, this guy's going to be a disaster. He's just an assistant coach. Nobody knows who he is. He's talking about biting people's kneecaps, and oh my gosh, he's a national joke. And now while they got upset and obviously got knocked out, a lot of people thought the Detroit Lions, had they not been injured, were the best team in the NFL. And Dan Campbell's another example of just some random assistant coach who happens to finally get a job, and look what happens. So obviously there are going to be tons of examples on both sides, but I feel like, Kimball, you're just so scarred by the being a Jets fan that it's impossible for you to look at this at this rationally because of all of the examples. Yes, you've pointed them out. I mean, basically you have to go back to Weeb Ewbank to find a good Jets coach, and I bet that's a ding for Shelby for sure. Go ahead, Shelby.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at most, head coaches that are in the game right now, I mean, that's just kind of a standard, trajectory is to become a coordinator and an assistant and then a head coach. I mean, Belichick, DC for the Giants, and then was he with, I believe it was like the Browns, and then the New England Patriots, of course.
He's the head coach with Browns.
Right, so that he wouldn't fit into the category that Kimball's creating because he was kind of
do you
a
have,
failure
but
for the
Shelby,
for
do you have
Belichick.
a personal experience where you were really high on someone, or really skeptical, about your team? I mean, I think before the podcast you mentioned you're a Red Sox fan, and so obviously when Alex Cora came there, having been a coach with the Astros, and it's like, who knows how good he's going to be, and he's turned out to be pretty good. But when he was hired, did you feel like, what, is this going to work?
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I think that's it. It's kind of hard to, look at now, because I think in hindsight, I would say it's worked out well in terms of what he's done. I think most of the issues that I have with the Red Sox and their management come more from a front office standpoint. But yeah, I mean,
But
felt
at the time,
at the time I was just like, okay, I mean, I don't really know who this guy is. I was also when I look at it, I think I was in middle school or something, so I don't really know how I don't know if this is something that I can really weigh in on.
No, well, so this is getting back to my point, is we fans place so much hope in this hire, like this, here comes our savior, and we have no idea. Now, hopefully the people hiring have done their work and they've said oh, no, we've talked to everybody and he's great in practice, because face it, 90% of what a coach does is in practice, and we don't get to see it. We see the sound bites, and we see the articles, and we see stuff like that. We hear things, nonsense usually, about, oh, he's a tough guy, he's a this, he's a that, but we have no idea what he's really like as a coach, running drills, leading men. And so it's just so frustrating. And so if you look at, we look at these outside pieces of information, and getting back to the Jets, it's pretty gloomy. I wanted them to go after Ben Johnson, but I don't think Ben Johnson wanted to go after them. And the Lions offensive coordinator, and let me just point out, his resume looks a lot better than Aaron Glenn's, because his offenses were 4th, 3rd, and 2nd in the last 3 years in the NFL in yards gained. And meanwhile, Aaron Glenn, our savior, he was 29th first year, 32nd second year, third year 19th, and this past year 20th. Now they talk about the injuries, but still, that's not a promising track record. And I know there's other factors, but again, my point is similar to what I said a few weeks ago about so much of what happens in basketball is about practice, or sports is practice. We don't really know. We don't have a glimmer of what this guy's gonna be like, and I hope Aaron Glenn is great. But when I see the sound bites and I look at the track record, I'm just like, here we go again. And I just wonder if you guys feel that same. I guess you don't have that same.
What do you mean by the sound bites?
I'm attached to teams.
What do you mean the sound bites?
Well, that's all you get. You don't get Aaron Glenn. You for example, some of the things that have been circulating are Aaron Glenn addressing his team in meetings, right? and and those are always like, yeah, he can give a great like fire him up speech, it seems, but it's like that's really such a minor part of what coaches are doing. Like they're not going to show him like teaching technique to a cornerback and you know like going over schemes, and saying like why we're how we're going to end up upsetting the Vikings with this blitz happy approach, but then it backfires, the next week. We don't see the ins and outs of that. We just see like, oh man, I'm fired up. And again, you don't follow Jets, the Jet social media like I do, but there were several
Can't say I
videos of
do.
him just
That's why
like
you are the way you are.
Can't say I
looking,
do.
Mhm.
looking like, oh my gosh, let me play for this guy any day. Um, so, and I guess, man, that's the thing. You guys have learned, even Shelby at a young age, like don't become attached so you can't be hurt. You can't feel the pain that I'm feeling. Is that what's going on here?
I just want to know. I mean, do you think there's a formula? I mean, there clearly is not a formula. So how does anybody, if this is what we have to go on, right? I mean, what would you suggest would
No,
be
this
better?
is what we have to go on, but we hope, and like the Jets are such a dysfunctional organization that they probably didn't do a lot of legwork. Like again, before someone hires these other coaches you mentioned in the past that like turn out to be great coaches, I would think they've tried to get in there as deep as possible and said like, how does he run in practice? What does he really teach? What does he really do? It's funny, Sirianni, even Eagles fans I know, think he's an idiot. And I'm like, I don't know if he can be an idiot and have taken his team to the Super Bowl twice now. Like I know he comes off like an idiot in press conferences and with other things he's done in the field, but can he really be an idiot? So
Well,
yes, I hope that the real people making decisions are getting deeper, but even they are not able to go in and watch practice for 2 hours, I don't think.
I've heard that Brick Johnson has a really cool an old Aaron Glenn trading card, and that's why he decided that he would be the way to go.
I mean, at this point,
It could be.
because I mean, here's the thing: is like, if I have it correctly, none of the 6 coaches that came before Glenn finished with a winning record.
That's the Jets. That's who the Jets are. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
I mean,
So-
I don't think there's really any reason to have hope for this guy. I mean, that being said, I mean, a lot of I will say, like, I mean, in terms of what he did with the Lions and inheriting it was a 32nd ranked scoring defense. They improved to number 7. Yes, there were lots of injuries. The playoff loss to the Commanders. Anyways, we won't talk about that. But I mean, I think he's done a lot of, diligent work. There are people that's including, Bill Parcells that speak really highly about him. And again, I don't see this as a bad hire, but at the same time, I think I would understand, especially as a fan who's lived through so much of this, it's hard to really be optimistic about anyone exactly.
Well, the fact
Especially
that-
with the team
So
they're
we
taking
can,
over.
we can end my pain and move on from this, but let me just point out 2 things sort of related and unrelated. I want to clear up, Shelby mentioned scoring defense, and I was talking about yardage, and that goes to a whole nother point. Like I think they're connected. I think it's very hard to prevent teams from scoring if you're giving up tons of yards, and maybe Aaron Glenn's just a master of takeaways and other things like that.
Bend but
So
don't break.
They will see. Right. The other thing is, I've just got to mention with what we saw, historic, really, in the game with Washington yesterday, where the official said, I might award a touchdown if you keep doing this. And I want to go back to whatever pod it was. Maybe our technical people can dig up these sound bites. But one of my points a year or 2 ago was exactly that. Like, the NFL's got to do something about this half the distance yardage, because there's no downside when a team's at the 1 or the half-yard line or the inch line to jumping off sides, because if you create an illegal procedure penalty on the offense, they lose 5, and it's a whole nother ball game. And teams have done this for years, not in such a blatant fashion as Washington did. And it was very interesting because that's a very archaic rule that finally came up after like 4 or 5 times. So go back and listen to that point, people, to my solutions. it's definitely a problem, and we'll see if the NFL finally addresses it.
I just love it any time in sports when you see, we've all, Kimball and I are 100 years old. We feel like we've seen everything. And honestly, I had never seen that before. That was just comical. And, and then this idea that the explanation from the referee was even better when he said, well, it was kind of like a mad babysitter. I could put you guys to bed early at any point if I want to. I'm not going to say when I'm going to do that. I'm not going to talk about how many times you're going to have to screw up before I do it. But eventually I'm going to do it. And I thought, is this real? It was hilarious. I mean, what kind of rule do we have that it's at the discretion of the referee to decide at what point you've overdone it? I mean, it's just like
Rule 11, Section 2, Article 1.5.
Well, there is a rule, and I
that's
saw
curious.
other people did dig this up, and there is a rule. But the problem is, as far as anyone can tell, no major football game has ever been enforced other than going back to, again, we weren't alive then, Tim, but we have a better memory of this. There was a college bowl game, like the Cotton Bowl, where a guy came off the bench and tackled the guy headed for a touchdown. And they said, no, it's a touchdown. Much different situation. Yeah. Much different.
I just think it's almost like, if in a regular game somebody said, well, you were holding there, but I'm not going to call it yet. But if you keep holding like that, I'm going to eventually call it. It's like, it's a penalty. What, isn't it a penalty or it's not a penalty? I mean, it's just a funny thing.
If I feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't piss off the babysitter too much or you're going to bed. All right. Yeah, I think we should definitely move on. Shelby, what you got?
All right, guys, we are moving on to a little bit of NBA talk. That's right. And yes, that is another professional sports league that,
That's
Professor
going on
Crothers
too?
seems unaware is going on.
Lord.
Guys, I'm going to...
I got to check out some other channels.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off by just prefacing that, and I don't know about, the scout, but whatever takes you hear from the professor, just know that when I typed the name LaMelo Ball into our group chat yesterday, he asked who.
I was kind of kidding, but I was trying to make a point.
Yeah,
I just don't care about LaMelo Ball. But
it's really hard to tell, but I'm just again that's up to y'all's discretion. That being said, guys, we are talking about LaMelo Ball's exclusion from the NBA All-Star starting lineup. It is some discourse that's the professor asked, okay, well, is this making a lot of news? And I had to explain, not really. When the Hornets are 12-30. That being said, though, this is a topic that is near and dear to the heart of, the two Hornets fans out there.
I was going to say, they must both be pissed about this, both of them.
One of which being my brother, Jack. So my brother, Jack, freshman at NC State, just have to pull up some text messages from yesterday. I was trying to convince him to go to the Lakers-Hornets game with me tonight. This was the text exchange. I said, you want to see Lakers-Hornets tomorrow? He said, go to the game. I said, yes, and see LeBron. As opposed to, anyways, I got classes till 5, but could be the move. So Game Time has the tickets going right now for, about $60. He said, for a Hornets basketball game, 4 question marks. I said, for LeBron. Then he said, but I'd have to skip a class and B. Mill, Trey Mann, and my GOAT, Grant Williams, ain't even playing. I don't really know what that means, but the last text that he sent it was but $60 for nosebleeds at the 12-30 Hornets, heartbreak emoji. So that being said, I will not be seeing LeBron James. I tried to convince my grandma to go with me, and I'll pull up that text message. She said, no thanks, don't want to see the Hornets and certainly don't want to see LeBron. She's a LeBron hater. But anyways, we can talk about my...
What does this have to do with LaMelo Ball?
Well, here the point being that the Hornets are so bad that I can't convince my family members to go for the purpose of seeing LeBron James, right?
I think you have this wrong, Shelby. I think I'm not going to speak for Tim, but I think he shares this with me. You would have to pay me money to go see an NBA game.
LeBron
absolutely.
James?
Absolutely.
LeBron James?
In person. I mean, I watch him on TV more than Tim does, but to go to a game and all the annoying factors involved there, yeah.
See, the way I was looking at it, I don't even know how many more times I'm gonna have the chance to, see LeBron
Absolutely
play
true.
live.
You're right
And
there.
I never have.
I'm not going to argue that, but
I never have.
Mhm.
So, anyways, game
All
time
right,
decision
so-
today. If I take myself, getting back to the point though, getting back to the point.
Yeah.
And I don't want the scout to say anything about me taking a while to get to the point. So we're just gonna put that there.
there you go.
Now, LaMelo Ball was excluded from the NBA All-Star starting lineup despite leading fan voting amongst Eastern Conference guards. Okay, this sparked some discussion again, at least amongst my brothers and I. And while his omission may seem like a setback, I think it could serve as a catalyst for enhancing the overall quality and competitiveness of the All-Star game. I present my point. Recent years have just
'Cause it's so competitive.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Recent years have seen a decline in the quality and viewership of the NBA All-Star game.
Really?
In 2023, only 4.6 million people tuned in. That was a 20-year low. And last year, guys, 2024 game was watched by, I'm going to let you guys guess.
Last year?
Yeah.
I'm
You
sorry.
and your brother, maybe your grandmother.
Mhm.
No, it was actually 5.5 million. So that's an increase of 20%. So that's what was flaunted. Oh, increase of 20% viewership, bro, from the 20-year season. Anyways, whatever. Okay. That being said, important to note, the trend isn't unique to basketball. Other sports, NFL, MLB, things like similar kind of all-star-esque events, sorry for hitting the mic, have lost their luster as well. But that being said, that NBA All-Star game has become known for, you guys laughed at it, but it's true, lack of competitiveness and just defensive intensity. It's really just high-scoring, fast-paced games. It feels like glorified pickup. Journalist
Yes.
Eve Pacer, that's Peyser, put it that the games seem like, quote, intuitively like good television, but in reality they often fail to deliver anything substantial. My favorite take on this actually comes from former President Barack Obama, who during an appearance on the Young Man and the Three podcast with Tyrese Halliburton.
He'll be on this podcast next week,
No,
by the way.
yeah, don't lie.
He's
So
still on a wait
Obama
list.
expressed concerns that players may not, this comes as a shock, may not be fully invested in the All-Star game. This is a direct quote. He was saying this to, again, NBA All-Star Tyrese Halliburton. Y'all gotta have a little more pride in that All-Star game. It's not as if you all don't play pickup during the summers. You know how to play it in a way that, all right, I'm not gonna hurt anybody. I'm not going to take anybody out. But that All-Star game, man, it's broke. Then he said, people just not running. Everybody just trying all kinds of, it used to be when Kobe and Michael and Isaiah and those guys were playing, man. I mean, they weren't playing the way they did regular season, but they wanted to win. And Obama was just laying it on Tyrese Halliburton.
Mhm.
So, anyways, we know the game sucks. I'm getting to LaMelo Ball, though. So, LaMelo Ball,
Executive order can change this. An
Okay.
executive order can change this.
calm down. Let's not get political. So Ball has a very dynamic, entertaining style of play. It's been a highlight for the Hornets in what has been just another dismal season. He's averaging just under 29 points per game, 7.5 assists per game, and his player efficiency ratings have continued to increase steadily since his first year in the league. He's now at about 21.2%. That's really good. He absolutely deserves to be a starter, especially above the Eastern Conference starters in Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. He is well above them in terms of assists per game, points per game, and his efficiency. But again, the team performance currently with a record of 12-30, less than stellar. And I think furthermore, his style of play would fit perfectly into what fans have come to expect of the All-Star game, and that's exactly the problem, okay? His playmaking, his style of play is, by definition, it's flashy, it's street ball inspired moves, it's aggressive dribbling, these audacious one-legged threes, hang time floaters, and I think oftentimes it kind of exemplifies the All-Star game's ethos in which, style and the highlights often trump substance. You lack competitive intensity, but it's just guys trying to make, these high-flying dunks, behind-the-back passes, improbable shots, things like that. And I'm not trying to, rag on LaMelo Ball, because, again, that being said, he does all this stuff, and he's still incredibly efficient, which is, kind of mind-bogglingly, efficient based on what you see. But that being said, I think not only does his exclusion underscore the importance of team success in all-star selections, but It could encourage players to prioritize both individuals' excellence and team performance, potentially leading to a more competitive and engaging all-star game for the masses versus this kind of glorified street ball pickup nonsense that it has become. Guys, what are your thoughts either on LaMelo Ball or the All-Star game? What would make you watch this All-Star game?
So I'm going to say, you've made a good argument. I am so
Thanks.
furious that he's being excluded that I am going to
hurts.
boycott that damn game now.
Me too.
Wow.
I am not going to watch
Me
it.
too.
Tim, join me in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to say is
That's
I don't think
that's
his
real noble of
exclusions-
y'all.
I think his exclusion is going to change anything. It is a farce, and it's way more than a farce than your even words describe. I mean, when I have tuned into it, I'm just like, are you kidding me? People are paying to watch this, and it does make me a little bit sad, because All-Star games could be an interesting thing, right? Because if you think about an All-Star game, if it's done right, it's the best of the best. Even when we get two championship level teams playing each other, they still don't have the best tight end, the best guard, and basketball, the best center, the best, point guard. And it's amazing. What if we could see them really play? And speaking of baseball, like I don't really watch the Major League Baseball All-Star game either because it's become a joke. One good thing that you're talking about is, the NBA doesn't have automatic entry for every team. Like, what if a team sucks? They don't have a All-Star guy. So when obviously Ball's exclusion means that not every team gets a representative, unlike baseball where every team gets represented, which always leads to trouble. And the Major League Baseball game is not a very competitive game when it could be. It would be so exciting to see, the best pitcher facing the best hitter and with the best fielders really trying. And it feels like that's never going to happen now with the, I don't know if it's the money and the fear of injury. But I will say, a couple years ago, I did get to go see, I was scouting and I got to go see the World Baseball Classic, a game or two down in Miami. And it occurred to me like, wait, this might be it. Because the Dominican team was amazing. And I honestly forget who they were playing. They were not playing one of the better teams. But I thought, this collection of players, the Dominican, it might be as good as it gets. There's like a star at every position. And they're trying to win. They really want to win. So I'm like, this is it. This is kind of it. And that would be I didn't get to go to like the finals and the best, the highest levels of the World Baseball Classic, but that would be kind of cool. And that is what's missing from these All-Star games, and that's why it's kind of disgusting, really.
Well, I had to speak last on this because I woke up in a cold sweat last night screaming about LaMelo.
No, you
I
didn't.
can't believe they did this to you.
Let me just check something. Is he the second or third Ball brother in the NBA? Are there three now?
I have no idea.
He's
But
the
didn't
second-
one of them just do some rap song that just
That's
went
right.
viral? That's all
That's
I know
right.
about.
Swerve in that
Was that-
corner.
There you
The
go.
oldest Ball brother?
That's LiAngelo.
Wow.
The youngest Ball brother?
He, I think, is the middle ball brother. You know what? Let me check myself.
Whoever the bald dad is would be very upset that we don't even
LeVar.
know which one is oldest, which one is the oldest.
Wait, yeah. Lonzo's the oldest,
Mhm.
then LiAngelo, then LaMelo. So Lonzo
Really?
is still in the league. Okay, he's playing for the Chicago Bulls right now. He's averaging 6.6 points a game. So
Unsatisfied.
yeah. But LaMelo has, I mean, he's the true hooper. LiAngelo is just making.
He's the rapper?
He's the rapper now.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, so Tim, your cold sweat?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
His
yeah.
song "Tweaker" went viral.
Total cold sweat last night, and I'm still agitated today. I mean, I've been walking around all day, just like I can't believe they've done this to whichever ball
LaMelo.
it is.
LaMelo.
Yeah, just horrible injustice that it's just it's really killing me. But anyway, my intention all along, since I may or may not know who LaMelo Ball is, was to talk about the All-Star game aspect of this. And Kimball, you've broken down some of that, but I think it's just interesting to me that within the last few years, in all of the major sports, baseball is the only one that even still plays a game. I mean, a real game. I mean, the NBA. I guess they still technically do they still even play a game, or
Yes.
is like Kevin Hart playing in that game now? I
Bro,
mean,
no, they're playing an actual
I feel
game.
like
they're playing a
when
game.
they've
That's the
actually
East versus West. That's what
play
we're
a
talking
game.
about.
Are you sure
you could-
Kevin Hart's never gotten in?
Yeah, I
Shelby?
think
Well,
Kevin
they do
Hart,
the celebrity game, but this
right.
is different. They
When-
still
I
have
feel
a
like
game,
that's
guys.
that's the clip I always see is Kevin.
That's
Hart.
why they're
Kevin Hart
starters.
is like breaking down like I don't know somebody, some real NBA player, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this looks cool. Yeah.
I like Kevin Hart.
Hockey doesn't even play a real all-star. I don't even play an all-star game anymore. They play like a 3-on-3 and skills competition. Football, the Pro Bowl is like flag football now, and some other, I don't know what the heck else is going on with that. And so, I mean, baseball at least still sort of plays a game, and I wish, yes, it could be. You're right, Kimball. It could be great, because part of the problem with piecing together great players in these other sports is they don't usually play with each other, so you're not really going to get them at their best. But in baseball, it doesn't matter. In baseball, it is just, all right, here's Paul Skeens and here's Shohei Ohtani or whoever. Or here's Paul Skeens against some great AL hitter, and you're like, all right, this is interesting. I kind of care about this.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in order for me to ever watch the MLB All-Star Game, I want them to go back and put on their actual unis, because the National League and American League unis are so god awful. And back in the day when they wore their own unis, that was cool. That was neat. I like that. But yeah, I have not watched 1 second. I can't tell you the last time I watched 1 second of an all-star game in any of our major sports. It was probably 10 years ago. I might have watched the MLB All-Star Game for 5 minutes, but it's an institution that's gone. It's done. It's toast. It's washed. Whatever the kids are saying these days.
Wash.
It's done. So yeah, I don't know why we bother. Just let the MLB players take 3 days off, all of them, and the rest of them. Yeah, I don't know why we're even trying to keep it going. Let's just end the All-Star games. That's my take. Too much?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say in them, but I would say that maybe thinking of different ways to revitalize them.
Keep
So
trying that,
for-
and it just gets worse and worse.
Well,
If
one
we
thing
end the All-Star games, we'll end this injustice. We'll never have a poor LaMelo Ball being excluded again.
That's true, and I can sleep again.
Yeah, okay.
Soundly.
Calm down. So, one thing that does give me hope is the WNBA All-Star Game, which obviously I think part of this is just the WNBA in general this past season just was shattering, TV ratings marks left and right. And, a lot of that can be said about just the Caitlin Clark and effect and all that. That being said, though, the WNBA All-Star Game completely shattered previous ratings marks. It drew 3.44 million viewers, which obviously is still less than, what the NBA drew, but I would say, like, in terms of relative audience, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's very, very impressive. I did tune into that game, and it was quality. And I think part of it was its setup, as they had and of course this was the All-Star game, heading into the Olympics, but they had Team USA play against basically the rest of the league's All-Stars. And so already you kind of have inherent storylines of, okay, it's this really dominant USA basketball team versus all these people that, feel like they should have been on that team. Of course, Caitlin Clark was a big snub that everybody was up in arms about, but really it was Arike Ogunbowale who stole the show. I mean, had an all-star game record 34 points in the second half. So 34 in the second half. And I would say, like, that's, certainly the best all-star game that I've watched in the WNBA, and a lot of, sports writers claim that in terms of competitiveness, it was, like, the best all-star game they had seen in the W. And so I think any way that we can kind of tap into something like that would be really interesting. Maybe like a Team USA versus Team World, where you would have, like, obviously Team USA going against like a Jokic and Wemby kind of thing, because I mean, you think about how great those and again, different platform, but the Olympic basketball games were incredible watches. So something like that, I think if you can kind of tap into some international format, again, I really like the point that you brought up, Scout, with the World Baseball Classic, that would make it super, super interesting. Another thing I definitely want to see more of are some sort of WNBA, NBA crossovers and more like intense skill challenges. I thought that the Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu shoot off was really, really exciting, and that drew more eyes. Like, I think I watched that for longer than the actual game, despite like the relative like time of the format and that competition obviously being way shorter. But anyways, those are some ideas. I don't think that the format is inherently or just the idea of an all-star game should be outlawed, because again, I look at what the W is able to do, and things like the World Baseball Classic and even MLB All-Star Game. I'll tune in for that. I think it's just a way of going about it, and how can we kind of play into some storylines, create some sort of rivalries. And so I think some sort of international competition element, again, a Team USA versus Team World kind of idea, anything we can do like that would be really exciting. It would definitely make me want to watch.
You totally scooped me. I had that entire WNBA All-Star take, and I can't. And now
No, you didn't.
I just that's exactly what I was going to say. So now I don't have to say it. You've crystallized my thoughts.
Oh, there you go.
Perfectly.
I'll take it.
All right, well, let's move on to point 3. This is a conceptual point. I like to sort of get crazy every once in a while and just go off the board. And this one, it just came up during the course of this past week, and so I just decided to roll with it. And I'll ask you guys first, and then I'll share mine. As sports fans, what are the best few seconds in sports? And you can take it from, okay, here's, it can be more of a general idea, which mine is, or it can be something specific. But I'm just curious what, if you could only have three seconds of a game, what would it be?
A few years ago in the NBA All-Star Game, 4 guys from the other team weren't getting back on defense, so Zach LaVine went up and he threw the ball off the backboard and caught it and dunked it, and it was just no.
Over Kevin Hart?
Yeah, over Kevin Hart.
Did he posterize Kevin Hart?
He leapt wide over. No. I think, first thing that comes to mind is just like that game in the balance, You make the shot, you win. You don't, you lose. And the last play where it's like, especially if there's not going to be a tie. It's like either score a touchdown on this last play, or you don't. You either make the winning basket that puts you in the lead, or you don't. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. Right, but that's totally valid, but not necessarily like a 2 or 3 second snippet, but that's whatever. That's fine. What do you got?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's the kind of anticipation of a big play, if that makes sense. So I think back to, let's say I'll take this as an example. UNC was playing FSU this past Sunday. And so Tania Latson ended up with the game winners. Time expired, but that being said, there are about maybe let's say 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock, and UNC had just scored to, I believe, tie it, but that FSU has a chance to win. They're going to go to Latson. And so it's just kind of that anticipation of the inbound play, or, in the Bills-Chiefs game, and the Bills had one more chance for a drive to save the game. And, this is Josh Allen's chance to finally get back at Patrick Mahomes. And we'll see if they do it here on, let's say it's like a 3rd and long or whatever it was, those moments of like anticipation, kind of like the setup for me are the best moments as sports fans, because you know that something consequential is going to happen no matter what, and it's just a matter of which way it falls.
Mm-hmm.
So even more specific, Tim, to what you're saying, I think, and I hope I don't totally guess your point exactly right, but it might be ball in the air. This is it. So we had it yesterday. When Allen threw that ball, you knew, hey, if a Bills guy catches it, you know, I guess they could have only for sure tied it, probably field goal range where he threw it. But yeah, the ball in the air, you know, like here's the last shot in the air, it goes in, you win, it doesn't, you lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you guys are talking about sort of moments of impartiality, and absolutely, I actually watched both of those examples that Shelby just mentioned. The Latson thing was a sick play. I mean, just pump fake, lost two defenders, two more defenders came at her. She finished it at the buzzer. That's a great 5 seconds, and then Josh Allen, ball in the air. We won't mention that the ball should have been caught by Kincaid, but
Was that the kind of short one he was diving forward?
Yeah,
that was bad.
But that both of those are great examples. My example is more from a partial fan, this idea that the most exhilarating moment in sports is that moment when you know the game is won, but you still get to enjoy one last moment of it, and I would call it the exclamation point. And the one I'm talking about in particular this week was, I have said on this program before that I'm, as a sports writer for all these years, I've sort of lost my fandom, and the only fandom that the only subjectivity I'm allowed to have these days in my mind is rooting for teams that my son is interested in the result. And so I am a huge Boston College hockey fan. And I was watching two games this week against their arch rival, BU, the Battle of Comab, as they call it. And the first game was at BU on Friday night, and BC went in there and stomped them 6-2, and that was pretty sweet. And then the second game was at BC on Saturday night, and it was a weird game. BC scored the goal with 24 seconds into the game to go up 1-0, and then there wasn't another goal scored for 59 minutes, and that was pretty unlikely. So it made for a fun 1-0 game for most of the game, and then it gets down to the last 15 seconds, and BU pulls their goalie, and Ryan Leonard, who is kind of my sports hero at the moment, gets the puck, and it's clear that he's going in on an empty net, and obviously the crowd is going batshit crazy, and you have that moment where it's won, but you get to have the exclamation point, and those 3 seconds between where he gets the puck at the blue line and when he goes in and shoots it into the net are just like, I think that's the most exhilarating moment in sports for a fan, if you're a particular fan of a team. And I would take it also to a situation where same kind of thing with a dunk in a basketball game, college basketball, obviously not pro. I don't even know whether they have these in pro basketball, but college basketball where the game's won, you make that steal at the end, and the guy goes down and dunks it at the buzzer. That's the exclamation point. And you have that like 3 seconds before it actually happens, where it's just like pure joy, pure fan joy, and you actually get to have that exclamation point that is not just at the end of the football game they're taking a knee, or some other, most games end with just like anticlimax, but the moment when you get the exclamation point, as we did against evil BU this weekend, that moment, and we're just watching it on TV and listening to the crowd, and it just outstanding. It's as good as it gets. What do you think?
So in the Chiefs game, it would be where they got the final first down that just said, "Okay, we're not turning the ball over you even with 10 seconds, 15 seconds to go." Right?
I mean, there was a portion. You got that feeling when when Mahomes completed the pass to P Ryan, and you knew, I mean, just as he was running toward the first down marker, and you could see he was going to get it. That is a similar thing, but something about it happening just as the buzzer's about to sound, I think, is just better. That's you need. The buzzer is the dot of the exclamation point. I think that's
too often we don't get that now because it's considered showing up. Like,
right,
you
and
add the exclamation point, and now you're having a face-off at mid-court.
And I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want it to be done. It's not done in a poor sportsman way. I don't want. I don't want it. I'm not for teams who make dunks when it's just not necessary. But this was a 1-0 game. I mean, you're not gonna skate away from the net in this situation. I mean, you've got to finish this. You got to finish it. And occasionally in a basketball game, you get that same moment where, okay, it's final seconds and there's a steal, and you're up by 1, or even tied, and you go down and you dunk it. That's the exclamation
Perfect
point.
example: 2017 UNC versus Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, UNC is up. It's about I think 68-65, so they're up by 3 with 15 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kennedy Meeks gets the block. Joel Berry recovers, kicks it out to Justin Jackson. He's streaking down, dunks it. Now UNC is up by 5 points with about 10 remaining.
Yep.
I mean, that's
similar.
That's the exclamation point that I remember growing up. And
National Dadgum Championship.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't say that it's hard. I would still say that my favorite moment in sports personally is that moment of anticipation. Anything can happen, and just the edge on your seat feel. But I will say, as a fan, that is one of the sweetest moments, because ultimately, I don't remember what the shot was that put UNC up by 3, 68-65, but that clip that I remember in my head is the exclamation point of the Justin Jackson dunk, and that's a case where I think it was definitely needed.
Yeah, no, it's there. It's, I think part of it, yes, is that it's one, but you still get one more little moment to celebrate, and when it can be done in a sportsmanlike way, I think that's as good as it gets. I will take that silence as to say, you've blown my mind. You have. I mean, you have that is just so poetic.
That was beautiful.
That's
beautiful.
so poetic. I mean, Shelby's getting a little misty down here, and Sarah's kind of losing it. So I guess I've made my
cry
point.
In the call, man.
I can't.
Yeah, in some ways, no, your point is valid, Tim. It's a very interesting moment, and it's very rare, right?
Yeah, that's part of the fun of it.
I guess I was silent because I was thinking, I love UNC basketball, and I save your every national championship, and I'm like, Kennedy Meek.
Kennedy Meeks, bro. Yeah, he had the block.
Kennedy Meeks. It's I guess I'm too old. I forgot he existed, much less
I never forgot.
made a key play. That would have been the most memorable moment of that game. Believe me, I was so happy we won that game, but that I do not remember, which is funny, but that could be just old age.
No, I mean, Kennedy Meeks showed up at the Dean Dome the other day, and I had the same moment. It's gosh, that was only, 8 years ago, and I just completely forgot about Kennedy Meeks. He was in that game.
Never forgot.
We've seen a lot of players come and go, Shelby.
Indeed. Yep.
Popson.
Ooh, yeah, I don't.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. All right. I think we've maybe managed to keep this to a bite-sized morsel, so let's get out while we still can. Thanks as always to our fabulous executive producer, Sarah Ellis, for coming in on out of the blue to squeeze in one extra podcast this week. Thanks to the prospect Shelby Swanson, the scout Kimball Crosley, and by the way, Charlotte Hornets, reach out. Get our girl a press pass for tonight. 3-point range press pass.
3-point.
This is the night. The poor girl, she just wants to see LeBron once in her life.
I just want to see
Reach
him once,
out. You
man.
got all day. You got all day. You can
He's
find her.
probably not going to play tonight because of load management.
Anyway, I hope it all works out for you. I hope you get to see LeBron tonight. Yes, so signing off. This is the Professor Tim Crothers pulling up from 3-point range, and it is